Video games are a great place for artistic expression and pushing those boundaries, but sometimes a game pushes too far, pushes too hard. Now, games are virtually never flat out banned in the United States, but the same cannot be said about other countries, and there have been a number of extremely popular games that actually had their plug pulled overseas. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Welcome to Chaos Extras. Today, we're going to take a look at 10 games you probably played that are actually banned in some countries. That's right, you're playing a banned video game. So you let me know which of these you put the most time into, if any at all. Drop a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we're going to start off with one that I didn't expect. At number 10, are you ready? Mario Kart Tour. Yeah! Released for mobile devices in 2019, it was the most recent entry in the Acclaim Racing franchise, and it's the one that many of you have probably played quite a bit thanks to its free-to-play model and extremely fun gameplay loop. But did you know? This game is actually banned in Belgium. Now don't worry. There's no secret nudity cheat or anything like that, as insane as it would be. But it seems after all the controversy surrounding loot boxes, Nintendo didn't take threats from certain world governments too seriously to change their business models. Mario Kart Tour does, or at least did, use a form of a loot box as part of its business model. And shortly after the game's launch, the government of Belgium swooped in and took it off the market. Many games were hit with this ban as well, but none were quite as comical as Mario Kart Tour. And due to the game's immense popularity, I thought it was a good way to kick off today's list. At number 9, DayZ. It's a strange case. It's widely seen as the game that helped establish the zombie survival genre as we know it today, but it's also a game that almost everybody thinks is not very good. DayZ is the only game I've ever seen hit the Steam charts top 20 without even having a favorable user rating, and that is impressive. It also has a rather interesting relationship with the Australian government. From all my research, it seems that DayZ originally launched in Australia on PC without any real issues. But once the PS4 version came out in 2019, things got weird. Australia's rating boards retroactively refused to classify DayZ due to its drug content, effectively banning it from sale in the country. The developers later released an edited version of the game that got re-released in Australia without issue, but this is one of the only instances I can find where a game was actually banned as a result of a console port. If the PS4 version of DayZ had never came out, the PC version likely would have continued chugging along just fine in Australia, but since the console port caused the government to put a fresh set of eyes on it, every version had to suffer. That's kind of weird. At number 8, Battlefield 4. Now, many consider BF4 to be the best in the series. In fact, the hype surrounding Battlefield 2042 mostly came from the fact that it was seen by many as a simple continuation of Battlefield 4's mechanics and concepts. But if you lived in China, you probably never got the chance to experience this gem of an FPS. As you probably know, China's government really doesn't like being portrayed in a negative light. Since the fictional conflict of BF4 involves China, the government cracked down on the game almost immediately. They described BF4 as a cultural invasion and banned it from sale in the mainland less than 2 months after launch. So that means if you were a Battlefield fan in China, you only got to play BF4 for the first few weeks when it was completely broken. You didn't get to experience it once they actually fixed it. At number 7, COD Mobile. Many COD players are still waiting patiently for Activision to release a console or PC version of COD Mobile. Probably not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry, but just be happy you live in a country where you can play the game. COD Mobile launched in 2019, quickly took the world by storm. Greatest hits design philosophy, honestly really good gameplay, which is rare for a mobile game at that time and still is. Since its launch, COD Mobile has been banned in Iran for reasons that were never made public. On one day, Activision simply shut off the servers in the country, which is strange. It's believed that due to tensions between the Iranian government and the American government, or perhaps due to economic sanctions, Activision just cut their losses and shut the game off in the region. But there are also theories that the servers were shut down by direct request to one of the governments involved. It's a weird case. It's made even weirder by the lack of public information surrounding it. At number 6, Saints Row 4. Now, Saints Row has always been a pretty, let's just be real, raunchy series, which is to be expected from a game that's trying to follow in GTA's footsteps. Interestingly, the fourth game in particular has gotten more attention than the rest when it comes to bugging world governments, which I think is kind of interesting because, in my opinion, the fourth game is the least offensive of them all. Handful of countries that banned the entire Saints Row series due to its violence and content, but in Australia, Saints Row 4 got this strange kind of grudge match with the government censors. Upon its initial release in 2013, it was banned for a lot of bad things, but even after the developers appealed it, the censors refused to give up on the drug-related content. So in order to get a release in Australia, a special version of the game had to be made that removed certain drug references and completely deleted one of the missions. So you guys tell me, do you think Saints Row 4 is actually the most offensive in the series? Because it's not. At number 5 today, Counter-Strike. I think it's safe to say Valve struck gold when they bought the rights to the original Counter-Strike mod. Despite the game's violent nature and high level of blood, it's one of the most popular games in the world and has a huge competitive scene in almost every single country where esports exists. Now, I think that's interesting. I mean, Counter-Strike is far more violent than some other games that have been banned for violence or sensitive content, but I guess that's what happens when the censors are subjective. However, one country where Counter-Strike was not received well was Brazil. In the late 2000s, Counter-Strike was banned by the Brazilian government because of violence, specifically due to a map based on the Brazilian favela. It seems the government wasn't too happy about a Brazilian neighborhood being used as a virtual shooting ground, but the ban was eventually repealed, and the game is back up for sale in the region. I mean, good thing too. Brazil's esports scene is huge. At number 4, Fortnite. I know some of you probably rejoice at the idea of Fortnite being banned, but it's probably not the reasons you think. I actually have no idea why Fortnite would be banned in the first place, since it's not exactly a violent or offensive game unless you really hate Fortnite dances. April 2019, Fortnite was hit with a ban hammer in Iraq because of negative effects caused by some electronic games on the health and culture and security of Iraq society. Yeah, I'm serious. Just in case you needed more ammo against Fortnite, now you know. It's actually banned by a world government because they thought it was hurting society. At number 3, PUBG and PUBG Mobile. Now, PUBG wasn't the first Battle Royale game to hit the market, but it was the first to go mainstream. In fact, PUBG is currently one of the best-selling video games of all time, which is impressive considering that it switched to a free-to-play model a couple years back. Back when it charged an admission fee, it sold over 75 million copies worldwide. Naturally, that kind of success led to other games like Fortnite, Call of Duty trying to come in, right? But not everyone is the biggest fan of PUBG, and certain world governments have given PlayerUnknown the boot for a variety of reasons. It was banned in Afghanistan for simply being a bad influence on younger people. It was banned in India for extreme violence. It was briefly banned in Nepal for delinquency issues among players. The list goes on. PUBG's insane addictive nature made it extremely popular, and a lot of the countries simply weren't happy about this realistic and violent game taking up so much of the population's time. Now, thankfully, a number of these bans have been lifted, but even throughout all this, the game was thriving, and despite not being as big as it once was, it's still one of the biggest multiplayer shooters in the world. At number 2, Animal Crossing's New Horizons. I am dead serious. One of the biggest games of 2020. And you would say that only happened because of global shutdowns. I would argue this game would have blown up regardless of its release date. It's a good game. It hits all the right addiction buttons for most gamers, but it's also banned for sale in China due to things that were happening around its release date. Due to the social nature of the game, some people started using it as a way to spread anti-government messages among Chinese players, and the digital protest became so widespread that the Chinese government straight up banned it. It said that the game is still available on the Chinese gray market, that's a thing, but as for official copies, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding one in mainland China. You might get in trouble if you get caught buying it. And at number 1 today, Roblox. Yep, has to be one of the most inoffensive games of all time. It's basically Minecraft, but with extra steps. What if I told you that Roblox has been banned not 1, not 2, but 6 times by world governments? Countries like Belgium banned the game due to its use of loot boxes, which seems harmless enough, but some other countries have stranger reasons. For example, the UAE banned Roblox after it deemed harmful for children, although that ban was lifted. The government of Jordan banned the game due to, I guess, nudity and some created content, user-created content. The government of Guatemala banned it because it could violate the safety of children and adolescents. So, next time you boot up Roblox for some wholesome family fun, remember that some world governments will be very unhappy with you doing so. And there you have it. Those are games you've probably played that are actually banned. I'll see you soon.